There's only 5 of us that really work here, so that's everybody. I mean,
I don't
it's not.
know how you guys manage such operational efficiency. I still don't get it. Like Skip, he kind of told us when he was on the podcast, but
Mm.
what he was saying was so, I would say, economically above my head. I was like, I don't even know
Right.
what you're talking about. Like lean processes and all that shit. I get it to a degree, but I was like, how do you do it? How do you only run a facility with 5 people? I don't understand.
Well, just he's said it multiple times. Like not everybody has, like we don't have kind of assigned work descriptions or job descriptions, right? It's
Right.
well, okay, yeah, today I'm, taking the sales calls, and then in a little bit I'm gonna go, I don't know, create invoices and charge cards, and then John get up and packs. Sean will pick orders, John will pack orders, I'll create shipping labels, and then we just, you just have to have people that are good at multiple things as opposed to,
Yeah.
one, good at one thing. So.
Well, and especially right now, like you're not traveling anywhere to see shops or open new
Right.
accounts or anything like that. So
Right.
luckily things can be done, remotely from the office. Is Skip there right now? He's in Texas right now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in Texas. He's not in the office today for whatever reason, but yeah, no, he's in America for sure. I mean, if there's one place you want to be whenever there's a pandemic, it's America.
Yeah, I'm thinking I wouldn't
why.
want to be in another country. Think
Yeah.
that's out. I'd be okay with just hunkering down here for a while.
don't
I thought
know.
it was, but
I think I'd live the tribal lifestyle. Just move to the jungle or the mountains.
just rub some aloe leaves on everything.
Yeah.
Swallow some aloe leaves.
Yeah.
And just
The problem is
go
I
for
have
the best.
a 0 sense in survival skills, and I would die within 1 to 2 days.
Yeah, I would too. Whatever
Yeah.
Bear Grylls has, I don't
I
have.
don't have that.
Yeah. And it would be of some
Yeah.
like ridiculous skin rash. I feel like I would die
This
from.
plant looks edible and it's poisonous.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
for sure be me. You know what I was thinking about, Danny? I was thinking this is gonna sound weird, but I was thinking about it in the shower.
Oh, nice.
So awkward. But I was thinking about just all these cigar manufacturers and all these brands, and in my head the question popped up, is there a brand that sells itself? And then I was like, not really. Even some of the best, most reputable brands, there's never been cigars that sell themselves. And then I thought about Roma Craft, and I was like, if there's one brand that I feel like is as close to selling itself, it's the Roma Craft brand. It was weird to think about it because I was like going through all these manufacturers, like, no, huge marketing campaigns, blitzes out in the field, feet on the street, the whole thing. And I was like, but what about Roma Craft? They it's kind of a product that really, not to say that you guys don't put an incredible effort into it, obviously, but it just seems like the value of the cigars and the branding that's been created around it, they just kind of, I feel like they sell themselves.
Like you guys are like Kevin Costner, and you built the Field of Dreams, man. And the Field of Dreams is the cigar, and we are the people that just randomly come there. You didn't even have to promote it.
So I hate to deflate your kind of idea there, and I love the love, but I wish it was that easy.
Don't do that.
No, I
to
know.
us.
No, I know it's not that easy. It just in my own head, I felt like if there was a brand that was as close to that as possible, it'd be you guys. Obviously, I know that's not the case. There's an insane amount of hard work that goes into it.
Yeah.
Which I totally
Yeah,
understand.
I mean, so when you think about the big guys, like let's just take Padron and Fuente, right? Like they advertise, some because I don't know if they like to or they just want to.
Right.
I don't necessarily think they need to, right?
Sure.
I think like Drew Estate Acid, they don't need to sell or advertise the Acid line at all because that's their top selling cigar by far, right? So I would say that those guys sell themselves, although they do advertise. I mean, look, man, it's hard for you to have a reputable. I can't say reputable. That's not true. But it's hard to open a lounge and not at least think about having Padron and Fuente in there.
That's
and
true.
Yeah,
99% of them do.
Yeah, just
And if they don't,
just shelf space
But-
alone, right? Like making sure that you have it available because
Don't you feel?
Right.
Don't you think that at a certain point though, like Fuente is going to be like McDonald's, where they're like, "Here's our clown. Our clown is going to drive people to come in and buy hamburgers."
Well, don't they already do that
then
with
they're
like the little bobblehead?
they're like, "But now our sales are dropping. We need to change this. We need to appeal to teenagers." You remember when they did that in the mid 2000s?
Yeah.
Of course.
I feel like there'll be a time when they'll have to reinvent themselves on marketing.
Sure. I think that, a lot of that, you know, I think the Opus X stuff will last forever. It's classic. It's badass. The Fuente, like all the Fuente stuff that's been around forever, maybe possibly, but the difference between them and like, let's say McDonald's is, I mean, there's a stigma about going. I mean, you could tell people you went to McDonald's and they'll roll their eyes at you. Like, I guess you don't love yourself.
But
right.
I do that with Fuente cigars though.
See, and that's the thing is like within the industry, we have, there's people that like, you got a lot of respect for what they do, right?
That's
I mean,
true, of course.
if you look at their family story from starting in Tampa and going to fucking, Puerto Rico and Ecuador and Nicaragua, and then having to leave Nicaragua, and then eventually ending up in Dominican Republic and owning their own factories and growing their own tobacco. I mean, there's nothing but respect for those people, and to be real, there's really no bigger swinging dick in the industry than Carlito, right? So it's like, so I would not put it at that level, but that said, with us, I wish it sold itself. If we get, so the perfect storm for me, like if I'm opening an account, is the manager, employees, and customers are already fans.
Right.
And for whatever reason, they just haven't opened, right? Or haven't opened an account with us.
Right.
But sometimes, in a lot of shops, it's still a hand sell, right? I mean, we have very nice, like kind of plain packaging, so much, right? It's not super elaborate. It's not, hey, look at me. And then our price point doesn't necessarily say, hey, we're saying these are really great cigars. You should pay $20 for them, right? We're still at $7, $8, $10. There's a couple that are over and they're at $12. So, having the fan base and then yeah, fuck yeah, it sells itself if we have the fans in there. But for like a typical shop that, we're competing with everybody else, I wish it was that easy, because then we're doing good now, but then it'd be, honestly, we probably have a bigger problem because we wouldn't be able to fulfill everything. But
I guess the question is what is the strategy for you guys? So, Roma Craft, you guys have been around for a little while, and it was weird because I was thinking about this earlier today. I think maybe you were the first guest that we've ever had on the podcast. I have to go back and recall. But so I think about that and I go, okay, we're on episode 151. It's been 3 years. So if you were one of the first, you were within a couple years ago, which Roma Craft, I'm sure, as a profiled company, as a legitimate cigar manufacturer brand in the industry, has probably changed a lot in that period of time. So what is the strategy for you guys going forward in terms of brand exposure, opening up in new shops? What do you do to get more product sold, more product on the shelves?
Nothing, to be completely honest. It's like we go out. We still don't advertise, right? We don't pay. Nothing has changed on that aspect. Right. We just we double down on engaging with the end user, to use a IT term, right? Or like the consumer base. And we want the consumer base to drive the stores crazy. Right. Like
asking for your stuff.
Right. And that's a lot, we have a stack of stores that are, interested in opening, but they don't really know a lot about us, but they have customers asking. And so, yeah, posting the hard to get stuff, posting the core stuff, and engaging. We have the Weasel group on Facebook. Mm-hmm. We have a Call of Duty regiment, right? The Weasel clan on Call of Duty.
That's so awesome.
What's that?
I said that's so awesome. I love that.
Yeah, so it's like, just engaging on there. Here in the last few months with I don't know if you guys heard, there's like a quarantine kind of going on.
Yeah. I wasn't going to ask you about it, but I knew it'd come up in conversation. So
of course it has to. Yeah. So we were doing a lot of Zoom calls with stores and virtual events and stuff like that. Just like whatever to make the end customer, get the warm and fuzzies about Roma, which in turn should get their local shop to do the same thing, right? And it's really on our end. It's like, hey, we want to engage with our customers at the end. So let's do something for you, like whatever you need. You want to do a virtual herb, you sell, 5-pack or 10-pack, and then whoever buys it gets a link, and they can come join us and hang out with us for a couple hours and ask whatever questions.
Right.
And whatever. We didn't make anybody buy anything for the event. It was just, we were stuck home anyway. So let's engage. Let's help you sell some product, right? Because that's kind of the biggest thing is like, there's a lot of shops or a lot of manufacturers that were worried about their sales.
Of course.
Like, what if all the cigar shops go out of business, right?
Yeah.
Like, think about it from that. And so, when we had kind of our meeting, I'm like, hey, let's make sure these guys are still in business. So let's do whatever we can for them and hope that the universe kind of takes care of us back when everything's back to normal and they remember that.
Right.
And then the sales will come, the money will come. We're not worried about it. Plus, not that we have, we didn't have a ton of inventory anyway at the time. So it's not like we were going to make this crazy killing on hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory that we had. Right. So,
right.
Now the difference with us is like, we don't have traveling reps. Right. So, for the majority of the cigar industry, if those reps aren't going like door to door basically, or to every shop, they're not selling. But for us, it was just another day. I was just doing it from home instead of the office.
Right.
That's sweet.
And yeah, so it's like, hey, what's up? I'm like, oh, hey, so there's a lot of stuff like, man, I haven't seen any of my reps in 2 or 3 weeks. None of them have even called, but you guys still like, well, cause I'm like, oh, wow, I'm sorry about that. But honestly, it's like, well, we're just really doing the same thing we were always doing.
Right.
We just know how to do it. Which, look, there's a lot of reps that are really, really good, but over the phone is not their forte. It's a completely different animal when you can't see the person over the phone.
Yeah, of course.
Or saying you can't see the person face to face, right? So that's just kind of my theory is like, well, they just know they're not comfortable doing that, so they're not going to do it, right? Or they know their store is closed, so they're not going to even reach out to the owner. With me, I was like, I don't care. Like, hey, man, what's up? How you doing? Oh, you're home? Man, that sucks. You guys are closed. Just find out how the kids are doing. Do you guys need anything from me? Do you guys need some swag? You want to put some samplers together? I'll give you some free swag, whatever, little ash cans, bottle openers, stickers, patches, whatever you want to do. Like, yeah, man, absolutely. Like, no hurry, just do it. Sell your shit. You could do a virtual event. I don't know. It was just a way to stay creative, a way for me to stay active, a way for them to sell shit. And then, so far it's kind of turned around. We're just as busy now as we were before the quarantine.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about was the outcome you were looking for achieved, and it sounds like it was.
Yeah, so far it was. It's like, hey, even if it didn't work out for us, like people will still like just kind of went to like slower ordering, whatever. At least no one could ever point to us and say, hey, man, when we were down, you guys didn't help, right? Like,
right. Of course.
At least that. So, and I talked to some shops that they ordered 2 or 3 times during quarantine because they were just blowing through it because everybody was ordering online.
Yeah.
Right. And then they were shutting down their lounge and making it a shipping area.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was interesting to see people kind of adapt very some places adapted very quickly, others to follow, without an understanding of when things could potentially open back up. But some people, I saw like an adaptation. It was like, there's a couple of shops up in the Columbus, Ohio area that like, man, it was like a very, very quick move. They were like, this is what we're doing. Here's how you can do online ordering. They put systems in place. And it was like within a week, I was like, holy shit.
You know what?
You just start ordering online.
Part of the trick too is that with the digital kind of landscape that we have, if you have a brick and mortar point of sale system, most of them do support online. So sometimes it's just a flip of the switch, which is great. So like B&M's, if you don't have a well-versed point of sale system, invest in one because you'll be able to handle in-store orders as well as online in case of quarantine.
100%. Yeah, it's like, I know a lot of guys that don't. Their inventory is basically just when they go into the humidor and they go count, but they don't have a system that tracks that stuff.
Yeah,
it's like, well, hey, this is the time to do it, right? So it's like, I couldn't believe how many people didn't have websites one day and 2-3 days later had full websites, pictures, and everything up. Like, oh, we were thinking about it, and like, well, it should have been had that.
Yeah, that is, and isn't it weird how this has forced the issue on so many things? Like it's so creepy to like even like in terms of like Zoom, everybody uses Zoom, right? Like that is the number one platform for online like UCC communication. And in the
For
world that
sure.
I live in, that's not cigars. That's what I do for a
Same,
living.
same.
So it's strange to see how like they were like, oh yeah, Zoom calls in this particular time period were 11 million. In the same time period, a month later, it was 300 million. And you think about and it was weird because like I've talked to a lot of like people in the industry that I work in, and they're like, "Well, it was the inevitable. It was going to happen eventually. Coronavirus just accelerated that effort." So I almost feel like the same thing is true in cigars, especially with B&Ms. It's like it accelerated the effort of making sure that you have a presence just outside of the storefront that people walk in.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And shout out to the people that took this time to gut their lounge and fix it and make it look nice the way. I mean,
Right.
I can think of 4 or 5 that did that, and I'm like, well, hey, fucking, when this is over and those customers come back, at least they're gonna have something. They're excited to come back into a whole new shop
Yeah.
almost, right?
Right.
Now, I would tell you with Zoom, I am on record on some other interviews that I've done and saying that I believe Zoom, will change a lot of the cigar industry, a lot of the events, and this and that. As I was doing them. But once I was on like my, I don't know, 15th, 20th Zoom event, I was like, I've seen all of you at some point in some other event already.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. The caveat is the oversaturation. I never thought about that. Right. So like, hey, if I have a story in Podunk, fucking Alabama, right, I'll get Podunk, Alabama Roma fans. And then when I do it over here, I'll get those Roma fans or people that never heard of Roma, and I can turn them over. Right. So for me, it's like, this is going to be a perpetual thing and it's going to be great. But all of a sudden I'm in Podunk, Alabama, Herf, and there's guys from Arizona and there's guys from New York. And there's I'm like, you were already on one. I'm like,
That's true.
I'm like, I didn't think about people doing multiple of them. Like they're literally buying sampler packs to go to these events. Which is great, but now I'm like, at some point we're going to run out of people that are going to want to watch us.
Yeah, and you
right?
do. So you make a great point in terms of oversaturation, and also interlace with that the need for in-person social communication, which we are very social creatures. So there is always an element that is missing from having even just the convenience of being on Zoom, and of course, in this particular case, it was absolutely necessity for people to move forward and communicate. But there's always going to be that need for the in-person communication. There's always going to be the nostalgia of sitting in a cigar lounge and participating in an event. Like the cigar lounge Chris and I go to, our local home spot, they opened up like, I think it
2
was
weeks ago.
Yeah, like last week. Yeah, early last like Tuesday, I think. It was like the first day they were going to be open again with, limited seating and all that. And him and I were not hesitant at all. We were like, I want to go back. I want to support this place. I know they've got safety measures in place. Like, I want to be back in my comfy leather chair, watching a movie, smoking a cigar with all my buds. Like, I missed it desperately. There's no amount of Zoom or Instagram lives or whatever that you can do that creates that connection. It just doesn't happen.
Unless I come up with a bit of technology
VR
that when plugged, I did do a VR lounge thing to like get me in the mode. But something that you plug into your laptop that gives you the smells of what other people are smoking.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And if I want to try yours, maybe
Could you imagine that?
put my mouth on some type of device. You blow through your end of your device, and I can taste what you're smoking.
That makes me nauseous.
There is this little box that is hooked up for gaming that will give you like the air and the smell. Like if you're in grass, it'll give you like a grass smell.
Really?
I was looking at it. I'm like, it's stupid and ridiculous, but I'm like, man, the technology, like I could see this in 10 years, like being a full immerse, like it's attached to my Go or my, what do you call it? My Oculus Go,
right?
Yeah.
Right. Where it's like, I'm like, not only there, I can smell the fried Oreos from the roller coaster I'm riding. Right?
Yeah, that essentially is the only thing that's missing from a full immersive environment is smell. Like no one's figured out how to do that. But I was like, for everything that has been invented in this weird technology boom that's existed since probably the 70s, like really into the 80s into now, You can't tell me that. I agree with you, Danny. In the next 10 years, that a component of smell is not going to exist. It absolutely will. Someone is going to figure out how to do that. And when they do, it'll probably be Elon Musk. Let's be honest.
Like I want to smell your halitosis through my computer. That's what I want,
Well,
bro.
well, like I don't know if you guys have ridden it, but they're in Disney World in Orlando. They have the Avatar ride.
No,
where
I've
you
not
actually like
ridden it.
ride one of those dinosaur things.
Yeah.
And when it swoops down into like the grassy area or whatever, you smell the grass, and then you can smell like the water that from the pond, and you smell
that's
the animal.
wild.
Like it's dope. So the technology is out there. It's just, it's just. I think we're 10 years away from it being small, affordable, and makes sense for your house.
I'm gonna
Right.
do it. I'll do it.
There you go.
I'll create an in-home lounge experience
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
that you can share with people.
And also really gross at the same time.
Fuck it.
But I bet you the strip club version comes out before yours.
Oh, hell yes, it does.
Yeah, well, for sure.
Oh, yeah. It smells like fucking halibut and
so-
eggplant.
It's so well.
Yeah. And like shit in fake Chanel number 5.
Oh, yeah. Some cheap ass perfume. Ugh. God, that's disgusting. So Danny, what have you been doing? Like, how has your time been occupied? Let's rewind back to middle of March, I think, when this really became a thing. So what have you done? What has changed for you and what has stayed the same? You've already said some of the stuff that stayed the same in terms of the approach with like Roma Craft, but what else has changed for you even personally?
Yeah, I mean, I became a substitute teacher and an administrator.
Yeah.
Oh,
also.
seriously?
Yeah, so we had kids, right? So it's like my wife would handle, with my elementary school daughter, like English and geography and whatever topics, and I would do math and science.
Okay.
There was a lot of
Yeah, so you've been like an at-home
Teacher.
At-home teacher.
I wasn't a real substitute.
I thought you
would not-
legit. I was like, oh, Danny's taking time out of his
He's doing lessons
busy
with multiple
schedule
children?
to prepare himself for the next school year. I was like, how admirable, but I understand what you were saying.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't want me to be your kid's substitute teacher.
Danny, I almost said this sounds like a horrible idea, but I was just going to let you go with it. I'm fully supportive.
Dude, I'd be in that geometry class. Like, y'all close your books. You'll never need this shit. Let me tell you what you need to learn. You need to learn how to do your taxes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Learn how to work for yourself.
Manage your money.
Yeah, the shit they
That's
never
right.
teach you, how to write a check, which you don't really have to do anymore. But I remember my mom teaching me how to write a check, and I was like, well, I learned more in this like 10 minutes than I ever learned in algebra. Like, this is the shit I really need to know is like, how do I go deposit a check? How do I write a check to
How
another
to
human being?
identify a crazy girlfriend?
Oh, yeah.
like,
yeah.
Life lessons.
FICO score 101. Like that's my like
Yeah.
I fucked my credit up so bad at 18, like from 18 to 20. I don't know how it happened.
Yeah,
But it was like horrible. I'm like, man, nobody told me. I didn't know what the fuck that meant.
It should be like a combination of, and maybe you make the overarching curriculum just life lessons. Life lessons
Right.
101, then you've got a 102 and a 201, and you just like you create curriculum around each one of these things as you progress through adulthood, and it's like that'll prepare you for the real world. Real world 101, I guess you could call it. But
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they need that for sure.
yeah.
But I feel you. I had to do the same thing with my 7-year-old, like teaching like all of his lessons. He's in kindergarten. That was a chore.
Yeah. I mean, and so Madison's in 3rd grade, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, but this is the fucking answer, right? Like, yeah, but we got to do it this way. I'm like, and obviously I don't cuss at my kids, but
Right.
like, I'm like, but no, that's wrong. Like, I don't care this is the answer. That's how you got to know.
Yeah.
I had to learn a little bit,
But like math is different right now because it's like
It's
the
the new
common core of
methods.
math. And I remember seeing like an example someone posted online of how I remember doing math, and then I saw this new example, and it was like
Talk
it was
about the
just
grid?
multiplication. It was a grid, and I was like,
Yeah, the
"What
grids.
is this thing?"
Some wild shit. And you cross the numbers you count going
It
in a
was
diagonal.
the strangest thing I've
weird.
ever seen. I was like, I couldn't acclimate to that, but that's why I have a calculator literally on call all the time on my phone. That's why I have it.
Yeah. I also have a daughter that's a senior. She graduates here in a couple weeks. But
Oh.
apparently all the kids in high school, and it's spread out throughout the country. There's a website where you literally just type out the problem. It will give you the breakdown on how the work is to be done. And it also gives you the answer, and you could literally copy paste and you would have the right answer.
That
and this
is
just
incredible.
went throughout every high school. and well, she's graduating. It's just,
Suck
who gives a
it,
fuck?
teachers.
But,
Yeah, I mean, like, so that's gonna be the thing. Like, so I don't have a kid yet. Chris has a kid, and Kale's 7 years old.
Yep.
So Kale is like, he's already at the age of which, like, I would say convenience becomes almost the priority as opposed to like learning things like long division and all that, right? Like, I've always been a path of least resistance type person. So I wonder what it's gonna be like when I have a kid when he's 18 or she's 18 years old. What's that going to be like? What is a lesson in school going to be like? It's got to be vastly different from what it is right now. It has to be, because you can't keep teaching that same style of doing things when it's no longer applicable in the world.
I think it's about solving problems. Like, and I don't mean like, yeah, I'm going to do this number over this number. I think you're kind of right. Like, being able just to identify problems and then solve them, whether it's a short way or an easy way, is like truly the most efficient way to teach people to do shit.
Yeah, like true problem solving, not looking at numbers on a piece of paper.
Not doing it the long way. Who gives a shit about the long way? No one at your job is going to be like, can you really spend about 2 weeks doing this problem? No, you're going to find the quickest route to get that shit done.
That's true.
That's what they need to teach them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I teach them how to problem solve.
Yeah.
Like how to find the answer. Whether, look, like, to be real, if I need to know what 34 times 787 is, I'm not taking out a sheet of paper.
No.
Right.
You don't even have to pull up your calculator. You just be like, hey Siri, what is blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
Right? And she'll give you the fucking answer.
A guy is
Or
holding
Alexa.
a fucking gun against your head. Do this fucking math problem. You got 10 seconds, but you can use any means you want.
Yeah, what are you going to
Are you
do?
going to do it the long way?
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Chris is making some excellent points. Usually he doesn't, but he's on fire right now.
I just like to be the dumb.
But it is weird. It is weird to kind of think about that, because I think just like and when I was in high school, the smart kid was always the kid that could complete the test as it was written out, doing the long division, whatever it may be, whatever subject it may be, right?
Yeah.
But you could argue now that it was like, well, maybe I wasn't the dumb. Maybe my C average was just because I thought that this stuff was bullshit and I knew an easier, quicker, more efficient way to do stuff.
For sure. There's a statistic out there that like valedictorians are typically not successful in life.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Because it's like they peak there and they're really good with structure, where it's like, hey, you do this, this, and this, and I'll give you an A. So like, oh fuck, hey, this, and this, I got an A, right? But then when you get into the real world, it's like, hey, we hired you to do this fucking job. You figure it out.
Right, like there's no forethought into doing something, that it's almost like I need to be told how to execute on these every single steps.
100%. And if you look at how many like crazy millionaires that dropped out of high school or dropped out of college, and they said, yeah, I just did shit my own way, and I don't know. I always quote Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like, I don't know shit about Saturn, but I'm worth $300 million. Like, like what would you rather do? Like know everything about Saturn, or be worth $300 million because you were good at something else, right?
Right. Dude was selling wine like online for his dad.
Yeah.
Like, guy just made a killing.
Some of the
doing
most notable millionaires and billionaires either had a military background, which taught them discipline and determination, or they were dropouts because they didn't believe in the system and found better ways of doing things.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
and just learned it
the
themselves.
system's fucked up. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen. So.
God, look at that soapbox we got.
That was a good one.
That was great. That was awesome. We should probably talk a little bit about Roma Craft, I guess, maybe.
Sure.
So I was thinking about this the other, because I know there was like numerous amounts of times I remember specifically bugging you about the Baka, because I still haven't had it.
Ditto.
Is that one of the ones? Is
that a unicorn?
What? Yeah. Where? Hey,
because
Danny,
I haven't seen
where are they?
I haven't seen that unicorn.
Where are they at? Just point me in the right direction.
Jesus. What's funny is I did an event with people, and they actually were putting Baka in the sampler packs.
What?
But so Baka was released at the trade show,
right?
And we have preliminary numbers of 1,000 boxes per size. We only had 2 sizes.
Oh, okay.
And then, so we sold like 700 of each size at the trade show, thinking we did really good. We're going to have 300 boxes of each size left over. We'll be able to take care of people that didn't come to the trade show. And, we were feeling really, really, really good about ourselves. And then Cameroon from Africa is very difficult to work with. Right? So like we had, I don't know, 400 boxes worth of segundos and just a lot of leaf that wasn't good enough to to use and work. And a lot of it is the cigar is perfectly fine, but the colors were so different. Like Cameroon, one leaf could have 2 or 3 different shades on it,
Yeah.
which is not the norm. And so anyway, so if you minus 400 from 1,000, talking about math, that's 600. Well, if you just remember, I just told you we sold 700.
Right.
So we had already oversold it. We had to redo everybody's numbers. So they were gone before I even saw them.
Damn.
Gotcha.
So that said, we are releasing two sizes again this year: the Pygmy again, the 4x46, and then the 5 3/4 by 46, which for me is probably the best one this year, called Jengi. So that'll probably be at the end of this quarter.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So now, you guys being in Ohio, I don't know. I don't cover Ohio anymore. So, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it online somewhere. The problem is, if you get a shop that's only getting 4 or 5 boxes of each size, they're going to throw them in sampler packs. So it's tough. Unless you're like a really, really good regular customer, it's tough to get a full box of it. But I mean, not that you guys are looking for a full box, but I'm just saying.
Well, you just tell me where I can like Kmart layaway this shit, and I will get a box.
Yeah. Oh shit! I forgot layaway was a thing. Is that still? I don't know if people actually do that.
I don't know if they do it anymore.
I remember that. It's like gotta buy kids Christmas, but I can't really afford anything.
I'm gonna put $20 down.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it over a period of 2 years.
This comedian talks about how his mom used to take him to the store to see the stuff on layaway. Or like there's shit you forgot you had on layaway. Like, man, this don't even fit me no more.
That is awesome. Okay, well that explains the whole Baka thing. Yeah. So I've been, it's weird too because like I would consider myself to a degree a Roma Craft dick writer.
For sure.
I gotta get a shirt. Something. I gotta get something made that just represents that clearly.
I'll send you guys a little care package after this.
Well, you don't have to do that. It's not necessary. But
okay, fine, forget it.
We'll support you.
Yeah, I'm gonna support you no matter what, dude.
Well, to be honest, with you guys posting all the time, I mean, I kind of owe it to you anyway. So
you don't owe me shit.
Okay, fine. Never mind. Edit that part out. I'm not gonna send you shit. All
right, can you cut that snippet out?
Yeah, I can. It's just blank space of like, beep. What did they say? But yeah, so like it piqued my curiosity because to me that was like one of the. It was like a big release in that time frame. There was a lot of shit that came out, but that was the one that probably stuck out the most to me, that I was probably most intrigued about. That's why I was curious. And I guess I should have probably just asked you, way earlier on and not waited this long, but.
Yeah, especially since you have my number.
It is weird.
Like, look, it's our first cigar that we've released in 4 years.
Right.
It wasn't a variation of a cigar or a size or whatever. It was just, this is a whole new cigar, the first one in 4 years from us. And it was the most anticipated one at the trade show. That's what people are telling me. Like, I had other manufacturers telling me that their people, like their customers are going in there and everyone's talking about Baka. Like reps were talking about Baka, and like, I'm like, okay, like, geez, and then Halfway will put it as like their number one anticipated cigar.
Ooh,
everybody. So there was a lot of, there's just a lot of, draw around it. And so what happens is, when the hype is like that, it's just going to go super fast. And then on top of it, it was a really good cigar. Like sometimes the hype does not live up to what you get, but the cigar was really good. It's Cameroon, so it's a mild cigar, mild to medium maybe. But the flavor was just on point. So that just made it that much harder. Now, here's the thing, we came out with 2 of the small size, a 4x46 and a 4x52, and they were hovering almost at $10 a piece. But that's just because that is not, it's not like Honduran Cameroon. This is African Cameroon. So it's hard to get, it's expensive. But it made the difference in having another Cameroon or having a really good Cameroon.
Right. Yeah. Well, what's interesting too, because you just mentioned the price variance, and $10 in comparison to what is sold in the rest of your lineup would be a premium. But what's crazy is that I think I remember saying this the first time we had you on the show, was that you could easily get away with selling all your other stuff for more money. Yeah. Because it's so fucking good. So I always feel like I'm stealing that shit when I buy it at a brick and mortar. I'm like, well, I'm just kind of taking this from them and could easily pay $4 more for it and be totally fine about it. But I like the fact that I can get it for $6. So
Yeah.
it's just,
Right.
it's weird. I mean, I think some people may make that association, but I would say all your other stuff is worth that as well.
Yeah, and you kind of have see the Baka is the one unicorn for sure. Do you
Yeah.
know what my other unicorn
There's
is?
a ton of unicorns.
Do you know what my other unicorn
Oh
is?
yeah, Chris was jonesing.
Say
we were
it.
talking about it last. I think we were talking about last week, where he's like, you know what I haven't had in a while, the Cro-Magnon Fomorian. He's like, I need that back in my life.
Oh, I need
We
it.
just started shipping those out. Like we randomly got like 50 boxes of them.
No
or something
shit.
like that.
I need
And
it.
gonna get a little more, but yeah, apparently even the fucking, what do you call it? The Fomorian, the Candela
Yeah.
Yeah.
was a little harder for us to get this time too. So it's like, God damn it, so
It's my fave.
yeah.
Yeah, Chris, like
Ugh.
he smokes like when he gets his hands on them, he smokes so many of them. It's disgusting.
And I love them fresh too, which is so hard to come
Like
by.
he smoked a couple in a row. I forget when it was, and then started throwing up. It was hilarious.
I didn't care.
No, I think of all the limited editions we make, I think that one could be a core product and just survive on its own. I think it's that good.
Oh yeah.
And then that's it. Yeah, I think it's one of the best. I think it's the best Candela out there.
For sure.
Oh, it
And
hands
again,
down.
not because I work here.
No.
For
It,
sure.
it hands down is because
I'll say
Chris
it.
Chris has gone on a journey to explore Candelas
Every
across
Candela.
the board.
I
Over,
think I've pretty much had every brand.
yeah, I
Candela.
think pretty much everything that's existed out there, Chris has got his hands on it, and he's very meticulous about how he kind of compares one another, and
Right.
it always hands down is the Fomorian every single time. It doesn't make a difference what it is. I think the closest probably was a Illusione,
the 88,
and that was
Candela.
like
That's it.
as close as
That's
they
as
could
close
get.
as it gets. I don't know what it is, man.
I always like the Fuente 888. Like they had a Candela. They have a Candela that's fairly good.
Yeah.
I think the big difference here is that it's on our Cro-Magnon blend.
Yes.
Right. So it's Indonesian binder. So it's a little beefier on the inside, and then you got this kind of milder but full flavor, super green Candela on the outside. So it but yeah, I remember you talking about.
Dude, question. Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's two different types of Candela flavors. One, especially if it's super fresh, it's more grassy. If it's a little bit, depending on another type of Candela, like double Claro or even a Claro, it's more hay flavored. I
Right.
personally love more the grassy, real earthiness of like a double Claro or a Candela, which is
Right.
like something that I always get with the Fomorian. Like,
Oh yeah,
I
he likes
love
them.
the grassy
Chris likes them when
flavor.
they're like bright fucking.
They
green.
better be
like
bright
when it looks
fucking
like
green.
it just rained.
Yeah.
and your grass is just like super freaking
Yeah.
intense, like saturated green.
That's what I want in a Candela.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what our Candela is. Our Candela is actually Ecuadorian Connecticut, and just instead of being in the curing barn for whatever it is, 45 days, I think it's like 48 hours. Right. So
yeah, right.
Sorry, my AirPods are dying and I want to use them, so I'm charging. And
You're good.
No worries, bud.
so I think yeah, so our Candela is Ecuadorian Connecticut, and I don't know if you guys know, but Ecuadorian Connecticut is also not fermented, right? It goes from curing barn to essentially stored because it's so thin.
Right.
So that's the difference with our Candela is it is Ecuadorian Connecticut, just not cured all the way and obviously not fermented. So it's gonna have that grassy, and it's gonna be, since it's as thin as Ecuadorian Connecticut, it's just that flavor profile. So if you like the EC, if you like that Candela, you probably like the EC, even though the binder and fillers are different, but it's the same wrapper leaf.
Yeah, dude. It's like my all-time favorite even today.
So Danny, what is your favorite Roma Craft to smoke? I don't know that I've ever asked you that before.
I'd be surprised if you didn't. But anyway, so my favorite blend that we make is our Brazilian, our BA.
Yeah,
I
21.
I smoke that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
so,
that thing's so good.
and I'll do a different size all the time. So whatever. But if we have the Revenge, which is a 5x56 box press, it's a limited.
Oh,
Mhm.
interesting.
I love
5x56 box
56
press.
is a little, like, that's probably my max size that I would smoke.
Yeah, that's a donger.
But it being in a box press, it fits. You know, I like the feel on the mouth.
Dude, I love it. And you like the little Perfecto. What is that?
A Cro-Magnon Mode 5.
The Mode 5, yeah.
Yeah, that's my all-time favorite. It just doesn't. I smoked one the other day, and I was like, it just took me back. I was like, oh my God. Like, for the first time I had that cigar, and I was like, what is this? Like, there's no way this is a real thing. Oh, it was just absolutely magical. And you know what's weird, too, is that, like, it's almost with any Roma Craft that I smoke, it never gets disappointing. Like, there's other cigars I smoke that, like, even momentarily or whatever the emotion is or whatever the condition is, whatever the environment is at the time, something clicks. And then I go to smoke that cigar again, and the click is gone. And I'm like, well, what the fuck happened to this thing that I did the other day that was so amazing? But I've never had that with a Roma Craft cigar. It's just the experience. No matter what I'm doing, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, it doesn't matter what I'm drinking, doesn't matter. It's just always fucking good. It's so weird. Yeah. That's the sell. That's the sell it yourself, man. I'm telling you, you're as close as you can get.
That's the key part of, owning your own factory and being 100% in charge of the quality that comes out, right? So like with all the Cro-Magnon that we'll ship out, the number of segundos that are made are relatively a lot, right? I mean, it isn't a ton, but it's just like man, like we'll get bundles of segundos here and smoke them, and we're looking at it and smoking it, and I was like, what's wrong with this one, right? And then you're like, oh, there's a little discolored here, this little discolored there, I think we talked about this last time, but by checking the weight is also how we know if it's too, like, it could be, if it's too heavy, it could be plugged. If it's too light, it could be a loose draw.
Right.
So all that goes into, it's like, man, what's the difference here? But like, well, you know what? That's why that's not my job, right? So,
yeah.
But it's for that exact goal, is to just make sure when you smoke one today, it's great, and you bought another one in a couple of weeks, it was great, and so, and the Cro-Magnon ages so well. We have a box here. I think we talked about it from 2013 that we'll pull every once in a while.
No shit.
And it is so good.
Damn. I know the one that I had. I'd probably had that Mode 5 I smoked the other night because I have a whole bunch of them. I have like my own little Nica Sueño box. Like it's its own box. Is the only thing that's in it, and it probably has been in there for 2 years. So not 2013, obviously, but 2 years, pretty good chunk of time. And it's like I pulled that thing out, and I was like, holy shit! I was like, how is it this good? It's crazy. I mean, it's weird that nothing diminishes on it at all.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, I appreciate it.
It's good stuff, man. So what is so let me ask you this question. What do you want to do post-quarantine that you've not been able to do, thus being in quarantine for the past 2 months? And in addition to that, two-parter, with PCA no longer being a thing this year in terms of in-person, who knows if they're going to do a virtual thing? You'd probably know better than I would. Since it's not obviously going on, what's Roma Craft's plan as far as either introducing something into the marketplace or continuing forward? What does the path look like through the rest of 2020?
Wow. Okay. So for me personally, I guess post quarantine, and technically we're still in quarantine, I guess. Number one thing is I want to go to a sushi bar.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
There's that. So now, as far as us for a company, we've kind of canceled all trips for at least the remainder of 2020.
Yeah.
So, getting out there and being able to see the customers again, not virtually would be great. Again, personally, maybe taking my kids to a park. I haven't been able to do that. They just kind of playing outside and whatever. So honestly, it's like, since everyone does understand why we're not going to do events, and since we don't really do a ton of events anyway, I think it's a perfect time to just kind of double down on being here, doing stuff over the phone, and just taking care of customers on that end.
Sure.
So what that means is also we had already planned not to go to PCA with the quarantine. So not because of any of the political shit that happened with PCA, at the end of last year or whatever. It was just like, hey, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Especially, when the Sands was talking about, only 250 people could go or enter. It's like, well,
what?
Yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah. So like, if you had a convention, you could only do 250 people, which, like,
why the fuck have the convention?
Right. Why have it? I mean, if you even think about the unions that go into the build everything, that's more than 250 people.
Oh,
The
easily.
security, the cleanup crew, the manufacturers, it's well over 250 people. So you can do it. So I'm assuming that that's why they canceled it, on top of like, hey, it just doesn't make any sense. And there's a lot of people kind of saying like, hey, we're not going to go because we're not going to put our people in danger. So we had kind of already thought of that. We aren't introducing anything new other than the new size of Baka, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's new. So I don't know. We're talking. Here's the thing, though, is like our factory was closed for 4.5, 5 weeks, right? So at some point, especially June, July, when the show was supposed to be, it's going to affect our inventory. Right now we're doing okay with stuff that was already in the aging room, but at some point, that month or a little over a month is going to catch up with us where we're not going to have anything come in, and we're going to sell everything we have, and I'm not going to have anything, right? So it's like, what do you do, right? Like, so, but let's say for whatever reason, miraculously, I have a humidor or a warehouse full of cigars, and we have everything in stock, which has never happened. But I could see us doing, kind of my idea, my plan was, hey, let's just book the appointments anyway, with just like we would do any other year. And then just do virtuals, right? So like every 30 minutes, I got an appointment.
Yeah.
And because 50% of my job at the trade show is to talk to the shop on how they did the year before and what the plan is on the year coming. Right. So a year for us, as far as dealing with our customers, right? So like our top 10 accounts get free shipping from trade show to trade show, not necessarily January to December. So So we'll say, hey, these were your numbers in 2019. Here are your numbers so far this year. This is my goal for you. This is what we need to do. Like, let's put a plan together. What can I help you with? What do I need to do better for you? And then I'll turn around and say to them, like, hey, this is where you're fucking up. Like, I tell you about this stuff, you don't really want it, and then you're mad at me because you didn't get it or you don't have it. So it's also another training session with our shops. And then after all that is, hey, these are our deals. Here are our trade show deals. And our trade show deals are usually super aggressive and on point, and we'll blow through them. Like last year, forget about it. I mean, in August, September, our warehouse was damn near empty.
Damn.
So it goes really well. So I could see that happening if we had the inventory. We're like, hey, here's our trade show deal, our virtual trade show deal, and I will just make an appointment like I would with the trade show with my shops, and we could do it virtually just to make them see. And appointments work really well for shop owners, right? It's like, they can say, hey, at this time I have to do this with them, and as opposed to just me, hey, calling, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Like, fuck, dude, I'm in the middle of my day. What are you doing? Not that happens a lot because people are used to us, but it could, right?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
So I could see that happening, but as of right now, I don't know what our inventory is going to look like because I don't know how our sell through is going to be the rest of, this month's almost over, but next month in July. And then on top of that, we have our 10th anniversary party coming up in September.
Damn.
Which seems like a far away, but it's fucking coming.
Yeah.
Right? So, we're gonna have some inventory for that. So it's gonna be pretty crazy.
Dude, that's actually, I didn't even realize it was 10 years. That's fucking wild, dude.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. Kind of freaks me out a little bit, I'll be honest. Like, where does that time, I just like, it's so weird to me. It's like, where does the time go? It literally, I've been thinking about that more and more. And I don't know if it's because I'm now deeply entrenched into my 30s, but I'm like, like, I reflect back. I was actually thinking about this the other day, like how long I've been removed from high school. I'm like, holy shit, that was more than half my life ago. And it feels like it was just maybe a couple years ago sometimes, where I like wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, holy shit, what have I been doing with this time? It's crazy. Not that like any of it's bad, but it's weird. It seems like there's an acceleration. So the fact that you guys like celebrating 10 years is wild to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. It's like, oh yeah, that was like in 2000. You're like, oh fuck, that was 20 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
So no, yeah, it's the same thing. So I mean, think about it. I was 37 on my first interview with you guys, and by the time the party comes, I'll be 40. Like that'll be my birthday weekend. So it's like I'll be 40 years old. I'm like, holy fuck, right? Like so. Yeah, and that's another reason why we have to keep reminding us, like, this party. and honestly, it's like a relief that we're not going to the trade show, because the trade show is so much work.
Right.
Yeah.
So just to get ready for it, not even, I mean, it's so much work before you can get there. So, we're at least not going to have that, but this party is going to be crazy here. So, I mean, I think our budget's like $150,000-$200,000 for this thing. So
Where are
it's going
you?
to be,
Where's it being hosted at? Are you hosting at your guys' place?
yeah, well, yeah. So out in our office complex, there's like a big grassy knoll kind of area.
Okay.
So we've hired an event planning company, and they're gonna kind of fence it off, and so people come in, they can do a tour of headquarters and then go out. But we're gonna have Style Switch, which is like our favorite barbecue joint here in Austin. We're gonna have Garrison Brothers here, doing samples. And then like Scarface is gonna perform, and he's gonna be our MC. And we have like 3 bands that are gonna be playing. We got our DJ that does our parties out in Las Vegas. DJ D Money is gonna come out here. He's gonna, DJ in between sets and kind of MC, also co-MC with Scarface.
Damn, dude.
It's gonna be nuts. And then we're gonna have cigars available that are only for the party. And they're going to be these 6x60 gram perfectos that I don't know if you guys have seen me post.
Holy shit.
And it's going to be a box of 8 and one gram perfecto for every blend. So even Wonderlust,
Damn.
Baka, Neanderthal, yeah, all of them. It's going to be pretty dope. So,
what?
Yeah.
How do you get an invite to the party?
Yeah, how do you get that?
I'm just kidding. You don't need to do that, but it'd be cool if you did.
I can cordially invite you as a member of the Cigar Media. No, I mean, it'd be great. So for a regular kind of consumer, we're going to sell tickets. So you can buy a ticket, just come. If you don't want the cigars, you can buy a ticket and then add like up to 5 boxes of cigars online. And then we'll have more cigars here available for purchase that day. So, we're trying to plan like a whole kind of weekend thing. We'll have an event at a shop that's literally down the street from us the night before. Then we'll do the crazy party the next day. And then the next Sunday, if there's any stragglers, probably do some kind of hanging out also. So,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll keep you guys posted.
You guys
are be pretty crazy.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
So you're saying that this could curtail itself into like a 2.5 day thing. That sounds like some Vegas shit.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So it's kind of a perfect time. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever heard about our parties in Vegas.
Oh, I've heard. Trust me.
Yeah, it's going to be that to times 3 at least. So it's going to be pretty crazy.
So wait, I remember the last picture I saw was no, I think it was Mike being walked out of a hotel room.
Yeah.
Is that the picture I saw? Why do I have a picture in
my
head?
That was 2 years ago. He wasn't being walked out, but he was walking out because the security had come to shut down the party for the second night in a row. So in 2018, so before last year, we should do 3 consecutive nights of parties. And they were shut down every night around 2 a.m. because of the music and people complaining in the rooms and whatever. So last year we rented the Tao nightclub.
Tao nightclub in the Venetian. I like that place.
Yeah. And that was dope. So we had, and it was crazy. And in true, Roma fashion, we had like these little white paper cards to invite people, and then they would come and they could get 2 drinks. And then they would take their ticket, and then they could have a good time. Or you could be like a VIP member. You could get the black metal card. And then that was like unlimited drinks, 2 at a time. And then there was like our cards, like the employee cards or the staff cards, and we can get unlimited drinks all the time, as many as we wanted, just to kind of show off. And people were being like really conservative, and it's funny. It was like a $15,000 minimum.
Whew.
And about 2 hours in, we're at like 1,500. So we're like, yo, let's
drink the fuck up now.
Yeah, so Skip goes in and upgrades all, like literally changes the bar from whatever they were serving to the next highest level up. And then it's like, hey, open bar for everybody. Because one way or another, they're taking 15 G's. Right. So
get your money's worth at that point.
Yeah, get your money's worth. So at that moment, the party went from great party to holy shit. Nobody's going to be able to function tomorrow. Like it was literally that.
I love it. Those are the best stories though. Like I love it's cool because obviously you've done trade shows for a while and I do them in a whole different world. And it reminds me of the trade show stories I have. all the time, where it's like, I remember probably when I was 22, 23, I remember waking up in Vegas. I'd just gone to bed, and I remember waking up a short time after that because when I was walking back to my hotel, the sun was coming up, and I had to be on the trade show floor at 7:30 in the morning, which was like an hour and a half later. And I was
Right.
like, what in the fuck am I doing? I think I was 20, 23, 24. Now I'm smart, so it's when I see the young people do it, like when I see, guys, gals in my industry who are like, we're going to stay up, we're going to do this. I'm like, enjoy it. See you later, Gator.
See you later.
And they look like
Yeah.
shit and they feel like shit the next day. And I'm, ready to roll. So it's,
See,
lessons learned, I guess.
Yeah, the problem is I'm the guy that like just wants to be part of the in crowd. You know,
Chris will
Like,
do anything.
I'm in the hotel room, like, hey, what are you guys doing? We're on the floor. Like, oh, that sounds fun. But then I'm too afraid to like ask, can I come? And they never invite me, and I just sit up
Aw.
there. I
Yeah.
just sit up there the whole time.
That's what happens
And-
with Chris often.
And what's funny is I've gotten a lot better at it. But like the first few trade shows I did, I had like some FOMO, right? Like fear of missing out.
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, everybody, it's 3 a.m. Everybody's still at the bar. Fuck it, I'm here, right? Like,
Right.
and I'm not even a big drinker, but I'm just hanging out. Everybody's talking like, I don't want to wait because I know the day that I go to my room, like I'm gonna take it easy. Tomorrow's gonna be the craziest story that I missed, and I could have been there. It's like, oh my god, like John Travolta walked in and he was like on the bar dancing, and like The Rock showed up. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Like, I can't be that guy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be that guy. Fuck that. But you know what's funny is like my first trade show in cigars when I had my own brand, like I was so tired from the flight over and waking up early and setting everything up and then kind of doing a little powwow meeting and then waking up early to be on the trade show floor. And then the trade show ended at like, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever it was. And I go back to my hotel and some of my friends are like, hey man, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm laying in bed. He's like, dude, it's Vegas. What are you doing? I'm like, bro, I'm fucking exhausted. Like, man, you better get your ass out here. I'm like, fuck, okay. So then that's where I learned. I'm like, yeah, I gotta get out there. So I met a lot of people, hung out. And there's actually that's the first time I met Skip. And who knew that like later on that would turn into something, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
like,
crazy.
Totally.
yeah, so it's like there's a bit of that where like, hey, I still need to network. But I'm gonna watch the clock because I need to actually perform tomorrow. So now I've gotten a little better at it. It's like it's more important for me to perform the next day
Right.
than because I'm usually always sick after the trade show because I'll lose my voice 2-3 days in, and I'm screaming because we have loud music and I have to talk for 8 hours in a row.
Right.
So now I'm just I plan it out. I got my vitamin C, got my or the emergency stuff, and I'm
Oh, yeah.
So now it's I've gotten older, so now I'm game planning my days. Like
Dude, that's literally what happens though. That's the progression you make when you do trade shows every year. You begin to like start to figure things out, and then by the time when you've done it 10 times, you're like, oh, I have this whole thing mapped out. This is my whole plan for this entire endeavor. Where it's funny watching people who come into it for the first time. It's like, yeah, you're in for some shit and you don't even know it yet.
Yeah, you're so wrecked. You don't even see it coming. But then there's guys on the other spectrum, like the Rocky Patel crew, like Rocky Patel and Nish Patel. Those guys are animals.
Really?
And they will stay up all night, every night, and you wouldn't even notice.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Just kidding.
Yeah, no doubt. It must be, right? So I'm like, man, and they're a lot older, they're older than me. So I'm just like, more power to you, man.
Some people just have that in them, though.
Yeah,
that's what's
true.
weird to me. Like, I don't have that in me. Like, there was definitely my days where I was going hard in the paint. But I remember I was reflecting on, this is probably 5 years ago. I was at a trade show in Vegas, and a whole group of people that I worked with came up behind me, and I was at a blackjack table, and I was in Paris casino. And I'm sitting at a blackjack table, and they're like, oh, you want to go do this? I'm like, no, I'm going to sit here and make money. And I made money. I went to bed probably at like 11, and they went to like whatever dueling piano bars in there. And I was like, no, I'm going to sit here and play blackjack, and I'm going to win my money, and I'm going to go to bed. And I think I won close to like $450. It wasn't anything crazy.
Right.
But then they all got to the trade show the next day because they'd hung out the entire time. They were completely freaking shit-faced when they got there. They looked miserable. They felt miserable. And I had $450 extra in my pocket.
Dude.
I was like, I won.
Feeling
not
rested.
win. Oh, I felt great. I
See?
felt great. It was wonderful.
I love that you're able to do that. I'm not able to pace myself. I find myself at 10 o'clock basically drinking way too much, falling down next to the toilet with my pants around my ankles,
Yeah.
completely naked with the door open, and that's me the entire night at 10.
Yeah,
And I'll wake up at 4 in the morning thinking I've been raped. And like where do I go from here?
So, Danny, true story. Chris threw up in my truck on New Year's.
That's
so
true.
That was
I
fun.
can't pace myself. I
like
don't know what it is.
400 feet from my driveway.
Yeah, I know. I was so close. I drove an hour, and I'm
So
like,
close.
keep it together. Keep it together.
Literally, what I told, I was like, "Hey, you're gonna be fine, right? You're not gonna throw up in my truck." He's like, "No, I'm good." And literally, we hear this like loud gurgle. It was like, "Oh," in the back. My wife looks back, and he's just throwing up all over himself. We're literally 5. I could see my driveway. And by the way, I get in my truck yesterday.
Yeah.
My wife and I, Danny, we went to a bar for the first time since quarantine started last night. And I get in my truck, and it was kind of a hot day. It was like a muggy day yesterday. And she gets in the truck, and she goes, "I can still smell your brother's puke."
Oh,
And I got it
means you missed
completely
somewhere.
detailed. Like, I mean, it was like.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the whole freaking thing done, just like in and out.
Dude, that night I had steak souffle.
oh.
It was so gross.
I had the most amazing meal and like amazing drinks. And it just all fucking
It
came
was.
out.
I posted a picture, like I think a couple days later, because there was. This sounds so bad. There was a chunk of his throw up in my front yard, and I was like, everybody play this guessing game. What do you think this is?
Oh,
And people
I
are like,
remember that.
yeah, people are like,
Guess
oh,
what
that
this
came
is.
out. That came out of like a coyote or something. Like, did you like open up a coyote, or like did you did your dog throw that up? And I was like, finally at the end of it, people are like, what is it? We're dying to know. And I was like, that was literally Chris's throw up. Like, it was the most horrendous thing I've ever seen and experienced, and it still smelled like, I think it's on my seatbelt somewhere back there. I need to get it off.
Oh, yeah. So if it got in the seatbelt and then the seatbelt winds up, that means it's like in the seatbelt, like
Oh, I'm fucked.
case. Oh yeah, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny too because when I went to get it detailed, so I took it to a family friend. They own a car dealership close to here, and they called me and they were like, "Hey, I just want to let you know we're gonna take care of this, but the amount of throw up in here, we usually have to hire an HVAC." Or was it not HVAC? Hazmat. We have to hire a hazmat company to come in. Like, we need people in suits to clean this out. If it's blood and it's this amount of excessive throw up, we have to like the third party this thing. And I was like, and they were like, but we're gonna do it for you because you're a family friend. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'd be like, but yeah, I think you should get your brother checked. That's really why I'm calling.
Oh,
He needs to go to the doctor.
Dude, it was so, and I was so pissed that we were so close to home.
That was a
Sorry.
great start to 2020.
Yeah. Well, Chris even said, so all this shit that's been happening with like quarantine and all that, he was like, I may have jump started all of this.
Right. You butterfly affected the world
Pretty
by your
much.
like shit faced.
Dude, he may have. He may have. All right, Danny, so here's the deal. I've got some questions for you.
Cool.
I may have asked these questions before, but just in case I haven't, we're going to cover them. I don't think we've actually talked about these. What's your favorite type of cut on a cigar?
It's just straight cut.
Really?
Regular straight
That's
cut.
so missionary, man.
Yeah, you're so
Yeah.
boring. God, at least give me
Listen,
some
like,
at least give me some doggy style with a punch. You know what I'm saying?
If it's a flat cap Neanderthal, maybe I'll punch it. V cut is like my last resort.
Really?
Like I'll even try to like use my thumb or like my nail or my
I've
teeth
done that.
before I use a V cut.
Really?
I've done the nail, yeah.
What's with you against the V?
It just there's nothing against it. I guess it's sometimes here's the thing. Years ago I was a fan of it, and I think it was more because it was a lot easier to cut. Right? It's like it's really hard to fuck up a V cut unless you're just doing it on a cigar that you should not be doing a V cut on. But then afterwards it's like it's just kind of aggravating my mouth. I don't want to feel this V or this weird shit. So it's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, my wife should be the only one getting that.
Yeah.
You're like, what am I doing to this poor cigar right now?
I know.
This has got to be illegal. All right, you know what? That's a fair answer, and there's some redemption in that answer, and I actually favor it because a V-cut is my favorite, but I've actually gone out of my comfort zone and have really been doing everything across the board. Like, I don't know why. It's not like it's, I've been cutting enough cigars for enough time. It doesn't make a difference.
You got to do like the Coke fingernail, but with your like thumb and index finger.
Oh, yeah, we should grow out like our pinky nails.
Yeah, and you just like, that's what you use to
just
like,
lob that thing off.
Pull off the cap.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
What's your preferred method of lighting a cigar?
Just standard torch. Like if I can get a triple flame or a quad flame. But you know what's funny? Like I am a fan of having the triple quad flame to kind of start your cigar, and then a single flame to like for touch-ups while you're doing it.
That's smart.
But that said, I smoke so much that it doesn't even matter anymore, really. If I have every lighter you want, what do you want? Like, okay, give me a triple or quad flame, whatever.
Right.
But if there's a Bic lighter in front of me and that's all I have,
you're like, I'm taking it.
If there's matches, that'll work.
Danny, you're like, I'm going to rub 2 sticks together. It'll be fucking 2-hour endeavor, but I'm smoking the cigar if I got to rub these 2 twigs together.
You know what's funny? I speaking of like wrapping this whole thing like together, quarantine and smoking, my kid had never seen like you being able to start a fire with a magnifying glass.
Oh.
So I was showing them that with a leaf, and then I'm like, a leaf? I'm like, I work with things with leaves. So I posted a video of me lighting a cigar with the sunlight.
Dude,
I'm like,
how the fuck did I miss that?
That's sweet.
How long did it take you, by the way?
Forever.
Did it?
Literally, I quit. But it was smoking, there was smoking coming out, but enough to be able to actually smoke the cigar. Probably would have taken a long, long time. But whatever, it was still pretty neat.
Dude, that is pretty sweet. That is awesome. If you're smoking a cigar and you don't like it, what do you do?
So again, with as many cigars as I smoke, it's like, what I pay for cigars, which is nothing. If I really, really don't like it, I'll pass. If it's just like, I'm like, I'm not really feeling it, I may power through it. And see if maybe it changes. I'll give it at least halfway through.
Yeah, for sure.
But for a lot of it is like, oh, okay, this is new. I need to try this, or I've never smoked this. I want to try it, or I have heard people talk about this. I want to try it. And I will. But to give it a fair shake, I'm like, if the first third I'm not really into it, but it's not terrible, I'll smoke the whole thing. But it's really rare where you get a cigar where you're like, this is shit, throw it out. Unless it's construction issue. Like if it's falling apart and all that, I have no patience. Goodbye. Right? Like I don't give a fuck who makes it. I don't care how much. I threw out a Baka the other day because the cap had kind of cracked. I'm like, if I put this in my mouth, it's gonna destroy. I'm like, I chucked it.
Yeah, you know exactly what's gonna happen.
Right. So I'm like, I'm not going to put I don't have the time for this negativity in my life. So I just
I feel the same. Like, especially if I have to like relight it like more than 3 times. I
get just even if you get like a subtle crack up the wrapper, like what trouble you're in for. You're like, this is going to get to the point where this is going to become just too much to deal with.
Now, if I'm about to light it and there's a crack, I'm not that boot. Like I'll try it. Like maybe nothing really happens. And as long as the crack isn't like towards the crown where I'm dealing with little pieces of leaf coming off in my mouth and all that, I'll smoke through it. Not a big deal. But yeah, like, if I'm working to smoke the cigar and I can't relax because I'm working on it, I'm done.
Yeah.
And, I was about to say, I forgot what I was about to say, but, for the most part, I'll power through it and it's okay. But this is what I was gonna say. I do relight a lot because I talk a lot, right? So I'm on the phone a lot.
Right.
So I'm constantly relighting. Even like right now, I have a cigar that's gone out on me 2 or 3 times because we were talking. So I'm used to that.
Hey, what are you smoking? We knew that you were lighting up earlier because we could hear it. But what are you smoking right now?
This is a Cro-Magnon blockhead. It's the 6x54 Toro in a box press.
Nice.
Ooh,
hell yeah, man.
Yeah. It's really, really good. So, and these are actually from last year, and it's actually a Segundo, but I can see why it's a Segundo because there's a couple shades on it, but it smokes great. You know, it's funny how there's this progression of like when you don't know, so and then all of a sudden you get to learn cigars, and then you get real bougie about it, and like, oh, I can't smoke that. It's a different shade of color. Oh, it's a different, whatever. And then you get to the next level where it's like, I don't give a fuck.
I
Bro.
don't give a
Give me
shit.
cigar.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, there's a crack in it. I'm like, okay, like just give me the fuck. Yeah.
Yeah,
So then,
that is kind of weird. That's like and I think you get answers across the board, just even when you ask these questions. But there's certainly
Right.
time, like the only time that I don't like, and what I was saying earlier, as far as like one, if like a crack is running up the wrapper, like I've had ones that are literally, it looks like a rose is blooming, like once
get
it
to
starts
it,
to go, and
yeah.
it literally it looks like one of those God, what are they, like little trick things where like the thing blows up on the end, like the little trick cigars. It's like boom, it blows up
Right.
on the end, and it's just like flowered out. Like that,
Right.
I'm putting that shit down. And that's happened to me weirdly enough a few times, like actually recently with some very reputable brands. And I was like, oh,
Right.
like this is weird.
Can I ask a question?
You can ask anything you want.
You know
It's a
what?
free country.
I'm in a position where I will purposely look for the crappiest, most ridiculous cigars and smoke them just to appreciate the good stuff. Do you ever smoke really shitty cigars just to appreciate the good stuff?
Not on purpose. Like, I don't know. If there's something where I'm like, if there's something like, no, I hate that cigar. Like, I think just the thought alone of me hating that cigar will let me appreciate it. But yeah, I can't say purposely smoking.
So,
I do.
so,
I
so
can't
Danny,
help it.
I've got to tell you this. So this is really funny. So, actually, you know what? This is the first time I actually met Mike and Skip. Was at a place here in Dayton called the Wharf, and they proudly carried your stuff. And it was the first time I ever had Roma Craft, and I remember. So this was a time Chris and I were at the Wharf. I remember him going in there, and we were meeting a buddy, and we go back into the lounge, and I was like, "What are you smoking?" And it was, and you said it, or you said the name earlier. It was an acid, and this was like maybe a year and a half ago. And I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "I don't know. I just wanted to try it." And then he kept doing it. We're going back to the lounge, and I walk up to the counter, and the kid behind the counter is like, "Your brother's smoking acids again. I don't know why he keeps doing it." And he would just smoke them, knowing that they weren't going to be good. And I was like,
Dude.
"Why do you keep doing this to yourself?"
It's so I appreciate.
He
the
was
good
smoking
stuff.
one that I swear to God, Dan, and this I'm not trying not to bash anything because I understand where acid has its place in the market. I get it.
Right.
It smelled like straight fucking hooker perfume. It was like so pungent. I was like, "Why are you smoking this?" And like I could tell other people in the lounge were bothered by
Like
it.
you're smoking this. Yeah, I can't help it. Like I don't know. I'm just we have a job, right? We have a job to smoke anything, and
Right.
you can smoke everything that's above sea level, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But sometimes you gotta smoke the shit that's below sea level, bro. You know?
Yeah, that's fair. I got more questions for you, Danny, and then we'll wrap up so you can hang out with your family and you don't have to talk to us bozos the whole night. What do you feel is the most underrated region for tobacco?
Tobacco or cigars?
Tobacco.
Oh wow, that's a great question. I don't know if anybody. It's funny how like the Dominican Republic is really well known for the cigars, but the tobacco not so much, right? Like a lot of the tobacco
Right.
is just used for filler or binder. So maybe there. I can't say that Nicaragua is underrated, so it can't be them. But honestly, maybe the U.S. Right? Like we use U.S. Connecticut broadleaf in the Cro-Magnon, so there's a lot of really good tobacco that comes out of the U.S.
Yeah. For sure.
Mexico has a lot. A lot of people think of Mexican San Andreas, but there's other like Mexican Maduros that come out of Mexico that are really good. Honduras has its bright spots, but there's a lot of Honduran cigars I don't really like. So I don't know if that's underrated or appropriately rated.
Sure.
Right. I think Costa Rica has a lot of really good stuff.
Yes.
You can get Cuban from Costa Rica. So, man, yeah, I would say, I think DR for their tobacco is probably underrated, or the US. There's a lot of really good stuff that is produced in the U.S. Unfortunately, it's so expensive, right? Like to do that stuff here in the U.S. and even manufacture in the U.S.
That's true.
Which
But
which kind of sucks when you think about it, because I know, like, I remember my dad telling me, wasn't Dad's first job on a tobacco farm? He
Yeah.
was like 13 years old or
Yeah.
some shit. Like, child labor needs to be a thing again so we can reduce the price of tobacco.
sure.
So that way you can get that good, nice, rich soil out of the Appalachian Mountains in Kentucky. You get the good
Right.
Pennsylvania tobacco. I love Pennsylvania tobacco. I love
As-
the Connecticut River Valley tobacco. It's delicious.
As
Just
a
gotta
support
reduce
role,
it.
though, as a support role.
Yeah, of
You
course.
know, like Pennsylvania is something like I feel like it's good in small bits in the filler, and that's about it.
Except we smoked, what was it, the Boondocks, and it was the filler component. It was the binder component and
binder.
the wrapper component.
Yeah.
So you have that as well.
That's true.
But I like that. I like that. What's an up and coming, or what you feel is an up and coming region for tobacco growing?
Oh, well, it's funny. I think Mexico has a good chance of it if they get their production, like what they do after they harvest the tobacco, that side of production. Mexico is a huge country relative
Right.
to, Nicaragua, right?
yeah, of course.
Or any of these smaller Latin American countries. They have mountains, they have valleys, they have great soil. I think Mexico could do a lot better if they had their processing better organized. So, and here's the reason why I say that. So a couple years ago, we had a shortage of Neanderthal because the Mexican San Andreas wrapper was just not good. So Oliva Tobacco in Nicaragua, a guy named Gus there, hooks up with the family that makes the San Andreas, that grows the San Andreas, and they took over the production of it for 6 months or a year, something like that, and taught them how they do it. And as soon as that was done, oh man, it turned everything around. And we are now cranking Neanderthal out every shipment. So
did they get the cartel involved? How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother side of this tobacco industry, is how much they control of shit. But
sure.
I think if Mexico kind of implemented a lot of those processes, they could grow a lot of very expensive tobacco that they can make some really good money off of. The Cameroon that comes from Africa, I wouldn't necessarily say it's underrated, or it might. Here's the thing. So it could be up and coming, but that family is very, very tight with that tobacco, and they don't just sell to everybody. So I think that they could do more if they wanted to.
But it would be under their control, right? Like, even if there was a demand for it, they would say, we're either doing it or we're not doing it.
Right. So, who knows there? But I think Mexico could have, a really good shot. But I think unless some huge changes for everything, I don't really see it kind of excelling anywhere else. If something happened to Cuba, where they could do the same kind of processes they do in Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic, and changed everything. They could be back to growing some of the best tobacco in the world.
Well, also, what I find, and I think you kind of alluded to it earlier, is that there's a severe lack of quality control that comes from Cuba. I think that seems to be something that a lot of people harp on even to this day, and understanding that, the production process and all that, like, it seems like there's really not a whole lot of care and attention to, hey, making sure that this was produced so that when it hits the cigar smoker's hands, it's as good as it could be, near perfection. Right. It's really not been that. So I think when I hear people talk about, hey, Cuban cigars, it's just like, that seems to be like the overarching concern, is that there's just a lack of quality control.
Yeah, I think, right. So there's two different aspects there, right? The tobacco part of it and the cigar part of it.
Right.
So there are tobacco fields across Nicaragua, Dominican, Costa Rica, that, like, the fields are actually monitored by satellite, and through satellite they can tell the pH balance of the soil.
Jesus
they can
Christ.
see, what nutrients the soil needs.
Were you saying like Cuba's old school with it?
What's that?
You saying like Cuba's just like super old school with it, that they're just not up with the times?
I think it's even worse than that. So, like, they're not giving except for like one or two families that solely grow tobacco, everywhere else that grows tobacco, once the tobacco is grown and harvested and taken by the government, that same family has to grow food for their family or grow other shit to sell throughout the year, but they're not replenishing the soil. So now those tobacco only kind of fields are where you get your high end Cubans, right? Like the stuff that goes to Dubai and the stuff that's like really expensive. And so there's a huge market difference between, like the regular, the stuff that, regular stuff like the cigars that are kind of the mid range kind of price, and then the high end stuff, where most people are there in the mid range. But when you get to the high end stuff, that's harder to get. I think the quality goes up a bit, but the price tag goes,
exponential, right? Yeah.
Right. So and then that's why for me, a Monte Cristo number 5, it's like a little, what is it called? Like a little Corona are some of my favorite, and they're super inexpensive.
Yeah.
And I rarely have issues. And I don't know what the thing is. I think maybe because it's Monte Cristo and they have the better tobacco there, and they can make these smaller ones out of the good tobacco. I've never really had issues with. But then I'll get into like a Cohibas, that like those Sigilo 5s or 6s that are really in the mid range and come in tubes and super nice presentation. I'll smoke one and it's one of the greatest cigars I've ever had, and then I smoke another one the next day and I can't draw through it, right? So there's a huge kind of thing there. But I'm with you. If somebody tells me they only smoke Cubans, I don't listen. I no longer take their opinion of cigars seriously.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because there was when I went over to my wife and I went to Europe last year. We went over to Copenhagen, then we went down to Amsterdam and spent a little bit like a day in Sweden. And when we went over and when we were in Amsterdam, there's a shop there called it's Cigaragua.
Yeah.
Cigar in Nicaragua, right?
Right.
And I go in there and it's nothing but Nicaraguan cigars, which to me was like a breath of fresh air because everywhere else over there, European market is of course going to be Cuban style cigars. And I was disappointed that the fact that like all these cigar shops I went to is like only Cubans, or it was like, it was Cohiba manufacturer, and then they would have the subset or sub brand of Cohiba in the American version, which I don't like. So I was like, this is severely disappointing. Then I go to this shop and I go, holy shit, this is all Nicaraguan cigars. Like, this is literally my heaven. And my wife actually, for the first time, sat in a cigar lounge with me and sat down and just let me smoke all day and talk to the owners and just chill. And it was like, I asked them the question. I said, all these other shops around here are selling Cubans and they're flying off the shelves. And that's what they like in the European market. I get it. There's something to it. And he literally looked at me and he's like, every cigar we sell in here is better than Cuban cigars. I was like, that's hard to argue. It's really hard to argue. It's super hard to argue right now. Like they sold this like the best of the best stuff. And I was like, hell yeah. Right. So excited about that. But I agree with, so that was like kind of my connection to what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I also kind of have that same standard of people say, well, I only smoke Nicaraguan cigars. It's like, well,
you're missing out.
Yeah, DR has some really good stuff. Honduras does have some stuff. Mexico has some stuff. Like, don't come at me with that, because then it's explore, just like, well, then you can't be a connoisseur because you don't know the differences.
Right. So if you're the guy that only smokes a box of Fuentes for the rest of your life, how much do you really know? And what you've not been exposed to all this other great stuff that exists in the cigar world. I mean, there's so much. It's incredible.
I want more like, let's say like Indian tobacco. Or maybe like
grown right in the desert next to an oil field.
Or like Eastern Southern Asia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, is there any Asian tobacco? What are those guys?
Sure, but most of that stuff probably ends up in cigarettes and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Yeah.
Fucking Asians.
Sorry if we have any. Does not share the expressions of this show. No,
yeah. You can say that. Disclaimer. Disclaimer.
Yeah. Now we use Indonesian binder. In some of our cigars too, right? So I mean, there is some good stuff out there. Now, the big thing is like, is it cost effective? Like, okay, like this Cameroon that we use is super expensive. And then I smoke a Cameroon cigar that another brand had just put out, and it's from Honduras, Cameroon. It's Honduran Cameroon. You're like, okay, and then you taste it and you're like, there's the difference.
Right. Not
Like,
the same
this is
thing.
a good cigar, but
Yeah.
man, that African Cameroon is the tits. Right?
Like straight from Africa. The shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to
Yeah.
kind of get their shit figured out, because if they can grow, I mean, you think about it, you watch all those like movies, like I remember that movie Congo. Like I think about just even watching that movie, they make
Right.
the landscape seem very, very nice and nutritious.
Yeah.
Just in the movie, everything is bright green. I'm like, the nutrients in the soil have to be great. Figure your shit out and start growing some tobacco.
Yeah, replace those diamonds with tobacco.
Yeah, who needs blood diamonds from
Yeah,
Botswana?
Well, it's kind of the same mentality, right? It's like, if they flooded those streets with the diamonds that are cultivated every day, they would be damn near worthless.
Right.
I mean, not worthless, but they would not be what they cost now.
Of course.
So it's kind of the same thing. It's like, if we hold back, we can charge more for it, because they know it's a great product. So I think that's just kind of their MO.
I'm not gonna lie, the ring that I got my wife is a really nice ring, but I'm almost positive it's a blood diamond. Almost positive. I told her that too. I was like, listen, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Somebody may have lost an arm for this. I'm just telling you. And if they did, honestly, kind of makes it worth more, in my opinion. That sounds terrible. Danny, I've got one more question for you. What
Great
cigar, what cigar, not Roma Craft, do you find yourself smoking most often?
Yeah, that's easy. And I think we may have talked about this last time. I'm a big Opus X kind of guy.
Yeah, we did.
So that's kind of why I defended DR a little bit. I love Opus X. Like, if I can get an Opus X Oscuro, like the ones with the yellow silk band on the foot. I like to try really anything that they come out with a lot. So probably that. But I like Patina a lot, not just because I'm friends with the guy that owns it, Mo. I love. He just dropped that new Maduro.
He's got the Maduro out. Yeah, we have him on the show.
Phenomenal.
I think in a couple weeks. I haven't had the Maduro yet, but I love Mo. Every time I'm in Chicago, we usually try to meet up at Lounge and hang out. He's so great.
Yeah. So I smoke that. I smoke that as much as I can. Thankfully, I have a local lounge that carries it, so I can get it from there. And if not, I'd order it online. So consistently those, but man, I'm all over the place. I'll go from, Espinosa has this new, or Crown Heads. We're friends with a lot of reps in the area. So
Right.
as the reps kind of come by and they drop stuff off, I'm like, yeah, I'll try that. I'm like, oh, I actually like that. I like this. John that works here, his fiance is the local Rocky Patel rep. So,
Oh, damn.
whenever they have something new, I get it. And if they have something that pops up in Cigar Aficionado, I'll just try that just to say I did or I can.
Yeah.
So I'm really all over the place. And then I still like to hunt things. I still like to collect. I mean, I did a trade for a Wanderlust pre-release the other day with somebody because I had 3. I smoked 2, and then I gave John one for his birthday last year. So I was out, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking for for this." I'm like, "Oh, I have." Let's trade. Like, I have a like he almost didn't offer it to me because it was a Roma Craft. He's like, "Oh, I got one of those pre-release," kind of jokingly. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take that." And he's like, "For real?" I'm like, "Yeah, fucking, I'll take that."
Damn.
Dude, the Wanderlust is so good.
Yeah.
It is a great cigar.
It is a good one.
All right. I like that answer. Actually, I like that answer a
And
lot
that's-
because it's diverse.
And that is the point, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you have to be diverse in this industry. You got to try the spectrum.
Yeah, there's some manufacturers out there that don't let their reps post other cigars.
That's so crazy to me. I could.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say their names, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and if you have a friend that has a Billy Bob at such and such, a Billy Bob whatever manufacturer in the name, and then he has Billy Bob personal, he's probably one of them, right? So it's if they have to have 2 Instagrams, one for work and one, they're probably one of them, and it's sad because it's like one, you don't think you're afraid of your representing something else and it hurting your sales. With us, it's like we're not afraid of anybody because we're not following anybody, right? We're doing our own thing, so
Right.
we're not afraid of like me posting Opus or saying Opus or
Right.
or
Skip
even
posts
guys
shit
at
all
our
the time.
level, right? Black Label or Southern Draw or the
Right.
smaller guys. We don't give a fuck, right? Because it isn't like the old school, like you were saying earlier. Hey, I smoke a box of Padron or a box of Fuentes every month, and that's all I smoke. That is just not the way it is anymore,
Yeah.
right? So our goal, if a guy's gonna go in and grab 5 cigars, if we're 2 of those 5, like that's our goal. Like one of the 5 is cool, but our goal is to be 2 to 3 of those 5s that he pulls, because nobody smokes the same thing
Right.
anymore, except for old school guys.
Old school guys. And guess what? They ain't gonna
One
be
day
here
they won't be here.
They ain't gonna be here that much longer. I hate to tell you. I said that in my old dad voice. I was like, ain't gonna be here much longer. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, it's weird too, because just like being a part of the millennial generation, which, God, I fucking hate saying that. I cringe every time I say it. But the fact, it is a reality. It's like Chris and I, we look to explore it. Everybody we know, we look to explore. Like there's guys that we hang out with, we go to the cigar lounge with, and they'll smoke 8 cigars a day, and every fucking one of them's different. And it's just all the time, just
Right.
What else do you got that I can try? I want to try something new. And they may not like it, but you just continue exploring.
Yep.
Just keep trying the new stuff, which I love. I will say this, Danny. This has been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Honestly, I'm not sure why we waited so long to chat again, which is weird.
No, it's perfect timing for me. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, I will say, I'm on a podcast and
See
I
you in
follow
3
all
years.
the podcasts. And I listen to all you guys, and it's like your progression from where you guys were 3 years ago, which you guys were very, very novice, like 3 years ago, right?
Oh, dude, we were fresh off the boat, buddy.
Right. And now, since then you've been to factories. Where'd you guys go? You went to DR or Nicaragua? No,
Yeah, I
you
went to
right?
DR.
Yeah.
And doing that experience, I've kind of watched your evolution in this. And I don't know if you guys listen to all the other podcasts, but typically, I've been on like Cigar Hustler and this and that.
Yeah.
We're always talking about all the other, and I'm like, the fucking hot ticket guys, as far as marketing their podcast, they're doing it probably the best, right? Like your artwork that you guys have is always just like really like the one you guys did for me on the last one. Like I wish I didn't have the Instagram version, because I would actually make that like a magazine and frame it. And, what I'm saying? Like I thought it was like that cool. So I think you guys are doing really, really well. The quality of your shit is really good. So just kudos to you guys, and just being able to watch your evolution over the last 3 years has been great, man. I'm proud of you guys.